I wish I could bowl better.
I can help you. Firstly, the run-up and bowling action needed to be looked at as a whole. This allowed me to perform a SWOT analysis, so I could then identify what needed to be done. Footage was taken of the athlete from behind, from side on, and from in front. The strengths of the athlete were that he stays upright and has a high release point. His weaknesses were a curved run-up, a low front arm, and a short follow-through. Opportunities were that he was keen to learn, and threats were his counter-rotation. A bowling action is an individualised skill. It can, however, be based on the same key foundations. Brett Lee, former Australian cricketer, is renowned for having a simple, effective pace bowling action, and so he was used as a base for the athlete's action, with components of Peter Siddle and Glenn McGrath's actions as well. Here is Brett Lee running in to bowl in the nets in India. Take note of how fluent his action is and how aesthetically pleasing it is. Lee is a professional cricketer and is therefore most likely an autonomous learner, meaning he doesn't have to think about his action, it just happens naturally. His run up to the crease is straight, his gather is powerful and stable, and his follow through continues down towards the batsman. Like our athlete, Lee stands up tall during his gather and has a nice high release point. These can be a good starting point for our athlete to build upon. To make the information more digestible for the athlete, his bowling action was chunked into 3 sections: run up, gather and release, and follow through. With the action broken down into distinct areas, it is easier to tailor activities so that they work on each aspect of the skill, but also can be constructed to appeal to the different learning styles of the athlete, such as visual demonstration of the skill, manual coaching, where the coach physically moves the athlete into the correct position, and verbally spoken instruction. The first aspect looked at was the run-up. A bowler's run-up typically should be straight and rhythmic, so that the bowler can repeat it with no thought every time. Glenn McGrath demonstrates a straight, fluid run-up. The top of his run-up starts directly in line with the pitch, and his steps are rhythmic and smooth. When we watch our athlete, we can see he has a curved approach to his run-up. Instead, his run-up should be here. To rectify this and bring his run-up closer to where it should be, there are many activities that could be used, and today we use a few cones to act as a runway for the athlete. It visually guides the runner from the top of his mark to the crease. To start the activity, the athlete has no ball in hand and just runs normally. Once athlete and coach are comfortable with the rhythm of his run-up, a ball can be added but won't be released. Eventually, the athlete can bowl with the cones. Next is the athlete's gather and release. It is arguably the most important aspect of the bowling action, but also the most complicated, and it has the ultimate say in the direction and power of the bowling action. Peter Siddle uses his front arm to gain extra power by raising it up nice and high before pulling it straight into his side. Our athlete has a low front arm, which will reduce the speed in which he can bowl a ball and may also pull his body off a straight line, affecting his accuracy, as the rest of his body will be compensating to continue moving forward. Manual coaching can be helpful in this situation as an effective way to have a learner, especially kinesthetic ones, correctly position their body. This initial correction of the front arm will create a neural pathway, and if repeated enough, becomes easier to repeat until this pathway replaces the previous action, where the front arm is too low. An activity chosen to emphasize the high front arm is as shown. The bowler walks through their run-up and high-fives the coach, who has his hand up where the bowler should be gathering and releasing at the crease.
Good work, Eric.
The main threat assessed in the athlete's SWOT analysis was the potential for counter-rotation. Counter-rotation is brought about when there is a twisting of the spine when the bowler lands. A bowler can land with the pressure of more than 5 times their body weight going through their lower back, knees, and ankles. With this, their vertebra is particularly vulnerable to injury, such as back soreness, hyperextension of the vertebra, and in worst cases, stress fractures in the lower back. Here we can see the athlete's back foot parallel to the crease and his chest relatively front on, looking inside his front arm down the pitch. This increases the likelihood of counter-rotation, so the back foot either has to be corrected so it's facing forward, or his chest twisted so his hips and shoulders are aligned, and he looks outside his front arm. The bowler felt more comfortable with a front-on action, so this meant his back foot needed to be corrected to face down the pitch, as shown by Peter Siddle. A helpful activity that can be used to show the athlete how he is currently positioned is to place 2 poles, one on his chest and one on his hips. The coach then highlights the different angles of the 2 poles and corrects his shoulders to be parallel with his hips. Lastly is the follow-through. The follow-through is important because it helps keep momentum going through the crease and takes pressure off the lower back, knees and ankles associated with stopping abruptly. As you can see, Siddle keeps his momentum going through the crease and continues on for several steps after having released the ball. Unlike Siddle, the athlete stops 1 step after releasing the ball and halting all of his momentum. Using cones as a visual reference, the coach sets out a path after the release point that the bowler must run past. This follow-through is much better to avoid injury and increase accuracy and power. After practicing for weeks, the athlete has an idea of what the skill is and has committed the action to his muscle memory. This places him in the associative stage of skill acquisition and means that he can do this. Thanks for watching the tutorial on the basics of pace bowling. The important points to remember are to chunk the activity, to cater to your learner's needs, and to most importantly, make it a fun and safe environment. Tune in next week to learn how to catch a high ball.
Straight up, and the ball was up there. Look at this. Just watch him move around. Hand goes up. The other hand goes up. He's got no idea where it is. Oh dear.